Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Heal with Grace podcast. I have a wonderful guest today, and her name is Jessica Corbin. She is a somatic educator and founder of Source, helping leaders and high performers use nervous system intelligence and HRV biofeedback to prevent burnout, build resilience, and create sustainable success. Y'all, this conversation it just lit me up and really resonated with so much of what we do here in understanding ourselves. She speaks to it on a little bit of a different level and talks about the energetic literacy, especially when it comes to people and business. And really, at the core, what we're talking about is how to understand ourselves and become a little bit more literate about our nervous system and our awareness and our energy. And so, if you need a little bit more understanding around what does it actually mean to connect to myself and what does it mean when I'm disconnected in my nervous system, this is very much so going to help you with that. And the way that she speaks about it is really beautiful. So, without further ado, I will just go ahead and let you take a listen. So, here you go. Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very much so looking forward to this conversation and learning a lot from you. So, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here as well. Thank you, Grace.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now and how you got here?
Yeah. So I am the chief energy officer for a company called Source, and we're a mission-driven company, and our mission is to regenerate human energy. And I got obsessed with this mission, called to this mission because I had a nasty habit of burning myself out, and I needed to solve my own problem. And I was a big athlete in my younger days, so I ran cross country and track and Division 1 athlete, so it was at a pretty high level, surrounded by some of the world's greatest coaches. So I was perpetually injured and sidelined, and I did not know anything about recovery. But I had like this ironclad will where I could mind over matter myself. I could tolerate high levels of discomfort and pain. And that was reflected back to me as something that was an attribute. Like I should be really proud of myself that I could do that. Because in acute phases, it enables a certain kind of success, but it's not a long term strategy, as I came to find out. But I use that strategy of mind over matter, fake it till you make it, dig deep, push through, white knuckling it, all the things that were taught by the culture and the system. I use that strategy all the way through my career. My early career as a TV host and reporter. So I used to do live television for various networks. I had my own show on the Style Network. I reported for E! News and CNN. Everything was going great using that strategy-ish until I really kind of had to hit my knees when my older brother got into a traumatic brain injury accident. And he was emerging from a coma for about a year and a half. And that's when all of my dig deep, push through strategies stopped working. And my system actually started to completely collapse. And I was a total shell of myself. The life force that I had built my early athletics on and my early career on was nowhere to be found. And I was so confused and desperate and heartbroken. The only place I could go, there's two places to get some relief, was my yoga mat that I dedicated myself to. That is still my practice. But I also found this acupuncturist. And this acupuncture, if you haven't ever experienced acupuncture, 3-finger pulse, they go 4 layers deep and they tell you all these things about your system. And he would say, your chi is really strong today. You could run hard, or your chi is really wiry today. You need to do yin yoga. And that was my light bulb moment. What was he assessing in my pulse, and how can I do this for myself every single day? Like I didn't want to pay $100 a pop to get that assessment. And from the Eastern standpoint, it requires the human hand. It is an art and a science, but there was a proxy on the Western medical side, which was heart rate variability. And I really dove in to exploring if I could leverage that. And I found out that I could. This is when the App Store first came out. It was like 2012. So it's really, really early days, and there was 2 HRV apps in there. One was in Japanese and one was in English. And so I reach out to the gentleman that had the English HRV app, and I tell him, this is not just a tool for objective number. We need treatment. like some sort of like recommendation structure. I convinced him to partner with me. I totally empty my K and I do, the entrepreneur startup thing, living on a dream. Delusional optimism for the win. And and I went for it and I got my first product to market and
Mm.
I think I sold 3 and they were all to my family members. I need to figure out how to market this thing. And that's when I met my co-founder and her name is Christy Brito and we've been together since 2014 and we attracted in some local folks and we were using Facebook. One of the users was the head of HR at Activision Blizzard. And she said, this is a slam dunk corporate health solution. We want to pilot it. And then I had another light bulb. I think we can aggregate group data and visualize the nervous system of culture. I think we can do this so that it's like we have a heat map of the entire organization as a living organism, and we can see into each team without exposing anybody's personal information. But I can see load and I can see recovery patterns and I can see actually untapped potential. You can see it. And that's the vision, man. That's the vision that we've been building and building upon at Source. We now call it energetic literacy because that's what it is, the ability to understand, manage, and renew energy. And we work with individuals, teams, and organizations to solve the human energy crisis. That's the journey so
Wow.
far. So far.
Yeah, yeah. So far, I'm curious, what does that mean then? Is there a different
It
vision?
just keeps
Okay.
emerging. It's so emergent, you know? I have to stop thinking that I have the total plan. It's like I have the North Star, but how to get there, that's what's emerging. It's like I can see it, but then the path literally is like revealed step by step. So attunement, alignment, is so necessary because this. It's like anytime that we try to control the outcome, the nervous system does not like that. It doesn't like that at all. And I don't think life likes its plan better than your little mind. So it's like you have to like make room for magic. You got to make room for, the steps to be revealed. But we do have the North Star. It's just the steps. That's what is emergent.
We talk a lot about that in
Mm,
understanding how to work with your nervous system to get out of symptoms. Because if you start to
mm,
do some nervous system practices, somatic healing, very practice we use is somatic tracking, literally, it's what it's called. But if you're doing that tracking sensation with your body to get out of pain, to get out of symptoms, to get out of that, which we want you to eventually, right? But if you're doing it, your nervous system, your brain's gonna be like, no, I'm too smart for you. We're not doing that.
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
It has to be about, I mean, at the highest, it has to be about presence. Like that's really what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Which I'm guessing is also a way to help renew the energy, right? I'm not sure all the different ways, but I mean, if we're constantly going, 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 we're depleting that. We're not actually renewing by being present and being there. And actually, that brings me to can you define HRV for people that don't know? We've talked a little bit about it here, but yeah.
certainly. So it's heart rate variability, and heart rate variability is a biomarker. Everybody has it. And it's kind of a bad title for what it is doing. It should be autonomic nervous system variability. Because when you say heart rate variability, everybody think that it's just about your heart rate. And it's not. It's much more subtle than that. It's kind of looking at the cross section of your cardiac and your nervous system, but it's really the autonomic nervous system is what it's looking at. So it provides a window, right?
Mm.
HRV provides a window into the nervous system so we can see how recovered you are from the prior day's stress. Now, I will then slow it down even more. There are 2 ways to measure heart rate variability. So, like, one is you can measure heart rate variability for something called a state change. And there are products out there that are miracles that facilitate this work, like heart math. They facilitate state changes. They get you out of kind of high arousal stress into a state of what is called coherence. You could also think of it as the physiological equivalent of gratitude. It gets your system into like a humming space. And that is one use of heart rate variability. How we use it is as a singular measurement
Mhm.
to look at overall readiness for the day. It's and this is because we use what's called an ultra short term reading. So it's 1 minute a day. We can take our finger to our camera and get this snapshot. Think of it as like looking at your gas tank to see
Mhm.
how much gas is in the tank so that you know how to navigate, and if you kind of start the day on empty, you know that you're going to have to like pull over and like fuel up in various ways versus a full tank. You can really like rip roar and just
Mm.
go crazy. But we really want people to kind of understand first so that they can manage second, so that then they can renew themselves. And that's what the objective marker of heart rate variability is doing.
So how you mentioned a little bit when it is
Arousal.
high arousal.
It sounds
Yeah,
very sexual, but it's not intended to be, although it could be. But
sure. Uh-huh.
it's like when your nervous system is at high alert. Yeah.
So I actually learned about this in a few different ways, but when I was in grad school, I was in a class for couples therapy, and we actually learned to use it in mock sessions to note, hey, we're talking about this subject and there's a lot of high arousal here. Let's check your HRV. So you notice when maybe your partner's saying something that is
Right.
activating for you or some type of conversation, right? And I remember being like, that's a really cool physiological marker that we can track, right? And that was for me the very beginning of understanding mind body connection. And then I also have a training in yoga therapy, and we use that very much so in trauma informed yoga therapy. But can you speak to also, okay, so in the high arousal of the nervous system state, what are we wanting? Well, what are we seeing with the HRV, and what are we wanting to get to with it so people can
Well,
understand?
with how we use it, we actually aren't looking at high arousal, low arousal. That is when you're using HRV for state changes. And I would say neither are good or bad necessarily. Like a high arousal state, even though we don't use that at source, but just to answer your question, a high arousal state is just being like, okay, ready to go, ready to like mobilize, right? But you need the skillfulness to downshift out of that gear. Otherwise, that's going to burn some really precious fuel. What we're looking at is how you're like basically, again, the gas tank. Like, are you extracting from yourself faster than you can repair? That's the big deal. And a lot of times people are doing it because they are not in their bodies. They don't have any form of embodiment or interoception. They can't sense the flavors. It's literally, they can't access it. They're living from the mind and they've lost the language of the body. You could also think of it like, they're living from more left brain and not right brain. Right brain is where all of your somatic, intuitive, emotional, energetic information is. Our society teaches us to be overly indexed on left brain, on logic, on rational thinking, on looking at things as parts, rather than wholes. And a big part of the work here is getting your left brain in to validate what's happening on your right brain and then have the right brain do the same so that there's a real like integrated symbiotic relationship happening between these aspects of self. But people are walking around so lopsided, and that's how they get stuck in a gear because they can't even access. Oh, they don't even know how to validate. I am actually triggered. Or this thing in my throat that I always get is because I'm not speaking something that needs to be spoken. It's like this body is such a wonderland of information.
Mhm.
And we just haven't been given the nurturing to learn its language. And so that's essentially what Source is up to because it isn't just about the objective marker of the HRV. That's important. That's the portal, that's the entry. And then we have to look at, well, why? Well, what's going on?
Mhm.
And that is its own other dimension, that subjective dimension. And how we teach people to move through it
Mhm.
is in 5 stages. So we look at their willingness to be with their energetic information. Then we look at their awareness. Okay, how is it flowing? Where? What's the pressure or the feeling? Then we look at articulation. Can you put language to that awareness? Then we look at action, which is can you align with the information that's coming through and take action from that place. And then finally, reflection. And we look at it in relation to ourselves, in relation to our relationships, other people, because we might get really good at our own being energetically literate with our own self, but then rippling that out into another dynamic, that's a whole new level of
Mhm.
vulnerability and practice. And then also how to become energetically literate with our work, because these workplaces are energetic entities in and of themselves
Yeah.
that have a consciousness. And we need to be in right relationship with our creations so that, kind of multidimensional harmony can exist. So that's the overall approach.
I love those different stages. I can see so much of how a process of understanding yourself, those are going to be the steps, right? So, once someone has that willingness, how do you help increase the awareness or bring awareness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have people self rate. So when they come in, we'll have them self rate,
Mhm.
subjective rate. We have 5 different insight questions that we ask, and they will rate their willingness, awareness, articulation, action, reflection on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being low relative capacity, 5 being high relative capacity. So let's say they come in, they're like, I'm really willing. I'm at a 4. And then we're like, cool. And then we're like, well, how aware are you of the energy and emotions running through your body? And they're like a 1. And we're like, okay, cool. Okay, so here's going to be your commitment for the next week, 2 weeks, month. Anytime that you engage, let's say, a task in your day, we just want you to pause and just do a body scan. Just body scan. Go slow. And you just note, okay, pressure, butterfly. And we're not meaning making. We're literally just scanning. And that is reconnecting them at the next level to their information. And that's one of many simple awareness practices that you could run. And then once they get that, let's say above a 3, they can move to the next. Okay, now let's look at what is this? If this was, like when you breathe into this space, do any memories come up? Do any impressions? And a lot of times it's no. And it's like, that's okay. You just go real slow. Okay, well, maybe I feel this just because my chair isn't okay, cool. It could be physical. Maybe this is because I feel pressure at work. That could be. But we're getting them to follow the gong of their own body, right? The resonance. So a lot of the art is we can give them primers, but we're always guiding them back into, themselves. And this is the work you do. So it's like I have no doubt.
Exactly
But
that
that's a
I'm yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just this reconnection. You're literally reconnecting people, and you could say their body signals. I say your energetic information because
Mhm.
I don't know why. It just is that's what resonates with me. It's like I did not understand the level of wisdom that was available to me, the level of knowing that was available to me because I was taught to dig deep and push through and unsee my body's signals. So now that I'm back in, I'm like, wow, I really feel like I'm 1 or 2 questions away from understanding most of the time. The discipline is to slow down enough to first ask the question to self and then have the discipline to stay present until something is revealed without gripping or contorting or attaching. It's like, those are some pretty significant disciplines to
I
cultivate.
think that's a really important piece to note, especially your journey with being so cut off from probably yourself and your body because of the conditioning, right? That a
Yeah,
lot of people have, but a lot of our listeners are in that very same boat, maybe in a little bit of a different way, but they've been very cut off and don't understand to the point where their body's like screaming at them to
right,
understand through symptoms.
right.
But it can be really hard to be like, "Well, I don't know what I'm experiencing. I mean, I have some pain here,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't know what that means." And I feel or I see a lot of people stuck in that place of, I'm grasping this whole connection with my body, but I'm not learning or hearing anything. Nothing's coming up. I don't know what emotion it is. I don't know what it means. And people get in a loop. So I think just your story of understanding, I mean, how you've gotten to even just articulate it in this way, you can tell that you have that connection with yourself. And can you speak to that journey of learning
Mm-hmm.
for yourself?
Think my life has been a really beautiful juxtaposition of pain and love. I've had enough love, like true deep, I could like cry about the levels of support and love I have in my life and people that are dedicated to my flourishing. I haven't always been understood, but I've felt consistently loved. So I've had enough of that love and enough of the pain to make me go, okay, because the pain is intelligent. The pain is such a guide once you understand that the pain is like a bumper lane that you're like bumping up against. And it is there for your benefit in many regards. It's just that you have to relate to it different. You have to see it for what it is rather than the fear story about it. But the love has given me the courage where the pain gave me the motivation for my evolution. And I would attribute the juxtaposition of the two. And I have always been interested in human potential. Like I came out wanting to optimize. But that's like old game now. The new game is regenerate because optimize is still a bit mechanical, where regeneration is really about understanding the logic of life so that you create conditions conducive for life to happen on its own. So it doesn't have to be such muscling. And that, by the way, that definition is not mine. That's Janine Benius. So creating conditions conducive to life. That is regeneration. And so now it's like I'm gardening, like I'm a gardener rather than like the hero. Mm. It's like old game wants you to be the hero, where it's like there's so much if we can just learn how to reconnect with like natural law, like so much of it happens on its own. Like we don't have to muscle it. So yeah.
I watched a few different videos of you, and I heard you talk about the separation of self as a form of dysregulation, or dysregulation is really coming from the separation of self. And I'm guessing from what you're saying of the regeneration, that's kind of on the same line. So, what exactly do you mean by that? How does that happen? The separation of self?
So when we were sitting with the problem of solving the human energy crisis, and you're sitting with that problem in earnest and like, how do you solve this? The first impulse is, well, make sure that people are like getting good sleep and they're eating right and they're exercising, and all of that is very, very true. The issue is that we were seeing very dedicated people doing all those things, and yet they were still burnt out and depleted and overwhelmed. So the lifestyle hacks weren't enough. And so when you sit with it even further and you go deeper, you realize that people are actually, you could look at it one of two ways. And this is the work of Laura Storm, who's a teacher of mine around regenerative business. So there are 4 areas of separation that have created the polycrisis. And the human energy crisis is one of those polycrises. So the areas of separation are between human and nature, between right brain and left brain, inner and outer, and masculine and feminine. And all of this separation has led to us feeling siloed. And that siloing is literally enabling life from regenerating itself. So if separation is the cause of the polycrisis, then reconnection is the solution. And then the question is, well, how do we reconnect on all of these major levels? Source is a part of the regenerative movement. But we are only addressing 2 of the 4 areas. So we're addressing the disconnect between inner and outer. We really want people to reconnect to their internal landscape through sensing and interoception, right? And really starting to validate kind of all the energetic, somatic, intuitive information coming through as viable, that we need to bring this into the decision-making room. And we also need contributing to the reparation between, or the reconnection between right brain and left brain. We sit with many, many organizations and executives that are looking at these systemic issues only from left brain. And that's why they keep perpetuating themselves. So we need to educate them about their brain. And when people come into, the understanding that you're leaving half of your brain out of the decision-making process, that's a humbling statement. And it gets them to listen.
Sure.
Because it's like, why would you have this whole other side of your brain if it isn't for, and the thing is that not listening to it is, the body is so smart. It will start to bang on those pots and pans, and those whispers become screams. And it's like, just like a child, once you give it the attention, the reconnection, and the compassionate care, it feels safe. And the wailing starts to calm down. because the reconnection is here. And that's what life wants. That's what life wants. It doesn't want to be siloed. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I sure gave you a sermon right then.
You did. Well, and I haven't heard that the different ways of disconnection, the separation. And I really that's very interesting to me. I'm gonna take that in of understanding the 4 different types because I talk about it mainly from, Dr. Gabor Mate, who talks about
Yeah.
really I love his statement of the more inauthentic you are to yourself, it will make you sick, right? And that's exactly what I talk about here and help people with. The more inauthentic, the more we are completely disconnected by probably all of those levels, which creates so much, harm and dysregulation within our bodies. And then our minds, our nervous systems are like, "Hello, this is not okay. We're
Right.
miserable." Yeah, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, and that topic of authenticity is something that is a part of what we're up to at Source, because we believe that if we can help you become energetically literate, then you can be more authentic. The problem is, again, people have been taught to unsee themselves, so it's like they don't even know how to be authentic. They don't even know where to begin with it. It's like it's like going to PT. It's like you can't go and do like the jumbo heavy max out squat. Like you got to do the little movement
Huh?
first, the monotonous to bring kind of all of the necessary connections online so that you can actually handle the load, and really throttle at your highest. But yeah, we got to slow it down because people will think I'm being honest. People will think I'm being authentic. And yet the body is an extension of the subconscious mind. And if they aren't in their bodies, they don't have access to what is it? 95% of their information? It's like something wild.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
around 5 to 10% of our mind is conscious. The rest is
Right.
completely unconscious. And yeah, exactly. This is so important. I love this bridge of understanding, okay, yeah, we can talk about being inauthentic as creating harm for yourself, but then people are like, well, how the hell do I create that authenticity? I thought I was living the life I was supposed to or wanted to or whatever it may be. But yeah, that understanding of first, obviously, awareness, willingness, and awareness of looking inward so that we can learn, right? Learning about the self.
Yeah, I think what's wild is that we have to learn to be in the ways in which you and I are talking about it. We're talking about it like to tell the truth. Like to be
Mhm.
authentic is to tell the truth. And some people don't even, again, know they're telling the truth to the best of their ability, but you're sitting with someone and you can feel that there is, siloing happening. Like they can't connect to that, but you can see it, you can feel it.
Mhm.
And so the trust between, the parties, like this is why therapy and somatic therapy is so important, is because then the trust that can be established between you and your client, it's in that trust that they can grow. But without it, they don't even know how to do it without the guidance because they're so far away. But if you're like, but look at your body posture right now when you're talking about that, and they're like this,
Yeah.
look at your, what's this? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, just go in. It's like, no, your body is it's such a tell. It's such a tell. But yeah, people need training wheels for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. If we've never learned, we don't know. We have no
Yeah.
idea. We're just operating off of what we've been told and what society tells us. And usually, up until a certain point, I think the disconnection is safe. It's there's a protective mechanism there, right? If we can be in this certain way, then maybe we won't be rejected or disconnected from others. And as our human nature is to be in connection with
Hmm.
others, even like you were saying, just that trust with someone can open it up for you. But yeah, it's a protective mechanism most of the time. And so it's
Yeah.
scary, I think, to take that away or to go inward.
100%. Yeah. If I didn't have the friendships around me that I did, I don't know if I could have, given myself to the process. And also, if the disconnection has happened, I also don't want people to feel shame around it because, again, it's highly intelligent. I know when my brother's accident happened, I like took all of my information and I threw it up into the attic. Only to unpack it 10 years later because I actually was finally available for it. So the body is, again, so smart, but it does respond to invitation. The body responds to invitation, to leaning back in, to going slow, to, just not force. I don't think the body responds to force, but invitation, heart-centered invitations. Yeah.
I found in my own journey that that slowness has been so integral and important. I mean, when I talk about sometimes where I feel like I've lived like multiple millions of lives of, and
I'm sure you have.
I'm only 35. Like I feel like I've gone through so many stages. I'm just that person that has the ego death and then relives again and finds another journey. And but one of the biggest aha moments for me in the past couple years is recognizing how many times I would disconnect from my body, even though I've learned so much and I'm a somatic therapist and right. But I've had a mentor and a coach help me really minutely understand, look there, we were talking about this and you went away, you dissociated or you
Yeah.
turned or and just that level of awareness I think comes over time, of course. But you're right, the body speaks so loudly sometimes, but we just
Yeah.
don't realize it.
Yeah, it has its tells. So if you just,
Yeah.
self-study, just start to observe without judgment. I mean, yeah, I do that. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. It's just, yeah, you can bit by bit though. It's leaving you breadcrumbs too, all the way back, breadcrumb by breadcrumb.
So I'm curious from, yeah, my own personal and professional level of you've built this, you have with a team and support and everything have built the source, right? And so much of your focus is energy and renewable energy throughout this time. And I'm guessing to help without build this without the burnout that comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess my question is what have you learned along the way that's been really important for you to build this in a sustainable way without that burnout?
For Source, we initially set out. So my co-founder and I have been working with each other since 2014, but we started Source in 2020. It's just been an evolution. So we were working with individuals and then we had that head of HR and then it kind of turned everything to look at the scale at which we could serve and we could serve corporations and we could monitor the nervous system of culture in a way that keeps everybody's privacy private. All those things came in 2020. And when you are in the tech startup world, you're also taught to go raise a shit ton of capital to make it happen. Um, and we put our decks together and I got my presenter on and peddling our presentation to hundreds of investors. And we got some offers, but then I had another light bulb.
Mm,
I can't take venture capital because there is a fiduciary responsibility to create a certain return for your board. And that was going to basically accelerate growth in such a way that would create the very problem we're solving.
mm.
So it became like such a weird thing to stumble upon. Where you
Yeah.
take capital from really matters. And so a part of the evolution has been, okay, we were able to raise from our team.
Mm,
So my CTO had a big exit and he put money in. And then one of our channel partners was seeing all the proof points and she put money in. We've only taken money from the inside, which as a founder and CEO helps me sleep at night because I don't have people breathing down my bed. I have people that have invested in the company because they believe in its values and they saw how it was working and they liked the way we were getting it done, which was in a regenerative way. So at this point in time, we are a regenerative business. And what that means is that as a regenerative business, you are trying to create and spread value, ROE, return on energy, across the entire stakeholder chain. And you're trying to leave everything better than you found it. And it isn't just about returning a profit. So,
mm,
how we define value is very different as well. And that's been a surprising part of the journey. Again, I couldn't have known that we weren't going to take venture. I couldn't have known that we would be a regenerative business or that even was a thing.
mm,
But now that I know it's a thing, it makes all the sense in the world. It aligns with the heart of the idea, which
mm,
is your business is an energetic entity, and that too needs to align with the logic of life. It
mm.
needs to have adaptiveness and responsiveness. It needs to have inclusivity. and diversity. It needs to have everything, all these qualities that would make a garden grow. It can't be a monocrop.
Hmm.
We can't just keep putting GMO seeds into the earth and robbing the soil of its nutrients. Like, we really have to make sure that this whole thing stays fortified. And so the rate of growth really matters. And so we no longer are trying to be a unicorn. We see ourselves as a hummingbird. It's like, it's not going to be this big. We're now a boutique, and
Mm,
we are a reminder of what is life affirming here. And if that wants to grow, it will grow, but it's not because we put a bunch of
yeah.
synthetic miracle grow on it. It's because it wanted to happen.
Which says so much about the heart of what you're
Mm,
doing and
mm,
how is regenerating on its own because of how valuable it is and how much it's helping, I'm assuming. And that's really
yeah.
interesting. That's really cool to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's so awesome is that if you build in a regenerative way, your creations can heal you. So a lot of what happens in business and entrepreneurship is that your creations turn into a prison of your own making. But if you build it regeneratively with certain values, the very act of building it is healing. And that's just like another thing that I didn't see coming. It could bring tears to my eyes. I'm just like, it's
Mm,
so wild.
wow.
But that's grace. That's grace, right, Grace? Like,
Exactly.
that's grace.
Mhm.
It
I
helps you
yes.
believe in life's design. Like, it helps you believe in life's design.
Yeah, I very much so, yes, named my podcast Heal with Grace for my name, but very much so, I mean, healing with grace is so much it's at the heart and the core of what is needed and something I say on here all the time.
Mhm.
Compassion and grace takes you so much farther than you realize. Actually, it's you can't really go without it. You can't grow, you can't
Right.
continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and everything about source and all of that energy medicine and regeneration. It's been really enlightening. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Is there anything else that you feel like needs to be shared based on what you're doing or the messages we've talked about that we haven't? Doesn't have to. I just like to ask.
Yeah. I mean, if these kinds of things perk your interest, we host seasonal cohorts called The Practice. And Grace, be my VIP guest if you want to join. But it is a container by which you can grow in your energetic literacy using the tools and orientations that I've talked about today.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. And we'll, of course, link everything below. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I will see you all next time.
Bye.